The UFC is returning to London March 22nd. I built a stacked fight night. I think I built 12 to 13 fights, something like that. But getting straight into it, the main event, Paddy Pimblet versus Moicano. Now, I didn't want Moicano to take this fight because I feel like it's kind of risky. The judges are going to favor Paddy Pimblet, obviously. And I'd rather him fight, Gaethje or someone else, Dan Hooker, someone in the top 5, top 6. Because if he wins that fight, he could fight for the title. He's a new challenge. But this fight, I feel like this is almost a more difficult fight for him than the two other fights. Because of Paddy Pimblet's, he's a good grappler, and he has a really good chin. Moicano, he's a chinny guy. Both guys are very big for the division. But regardless, I think that this is going to be the main event. And there is a co-main event that could also be the main event. But I think that this is a bigger fight. This has to be the main event. Co-main event, we know Leon Edwards. He's coming back for a fight night. I think that it's going to be against Sean Brady. There's not many options if they do Shavkat versus Usman, to be honest. And I think they're going to make that in December. You could say Ian Gary versus Buckley, the winner, does a quick turnaround. Something like that. That is possible. But we can't bet on them to do like a 2.5 month, turnaround. Sean Brady, though, that makes sense. Kind of a similar style to Bilal. Somewhat, not really. But still, it's either going to be him or JDM. Those are really the only two opponents that I feel like is pretty realistic. Leon isn't going to fight Usman for the 4th time. And I feel like JDM, he may fight in Australia, probably. I feel like he's going to fight sooner than March. I don't know why Sean Brady didn't fight Ian Gary in Tampa because he called him out. But regardless, I think that this is the most likely to happen out of all of them. They couldn't do like a co-main 5 rounds, but it's a fight night, so they usually don't do that. They only did that with like Rose Namajunas and Aaron Blanchfield for some odd reason. They do a WMMA fight in a fight night co-main event for 5 rounds, but they should just make this 3. Honestly, it's a really bad matchup for Leon, but he'll probably take it, to be honest. But yeah, moving on. Lerone Murphy versus Josh Emmett. Featured fight. This is a really stacked card, and it's somewhat realistic. Lerone Murphy, I think he called out Josh Emmett. I would like to see that fight. Josh Emmett, kind of similar to Dan Ige. Dan Ige, I feel like, is a little bit more jiu-jitsu than wrestling compared to Josh Emmett. But regardless, Lerone Murphy, this is a very winnable fight. I feel like he is the better fighter. But man, in that first round, he goes in there, he's winning the round, he's having a great first round, and he just leaves his chin up, decides to stand and bang with Dan Ige in the last 30 seconds, almost gets finished. I know a lot of people thought that Dan Ige won that fight. I have no clue how. I thought Lerone Murphy clearly won the 3rd round. He did all the damage in that round, and he's a pretty good fighter. This should be exciting. Maybe Lerone Murphy just takes him down and it's not that exciting. Lerone Murphy, he's the featherweight Leon Edwards. They're going to be fighting back-to-back. But yeah, I think that this should be the featured fight, in my opinion. But moving on, the 4th fight. Now, this is interesting. We have Nathaniel Wood versus Chepe. So for featherweight, there's a lot of guys that only need maybe 1 win, 2 wins to get that ranking, to get that ranked fight. And these two are right there. They only need maybe 2 wins for Nathaniel Wood. If Chepe wins, he only probably needs 1 more to get that ranked fight. Now for featherweight, again, there's a lot of guys that are so close to each other outside of the rankings. Obviously, Nathaniel Wood, he's right there, right outside the rankings. Chepe, Youssef Zalal, Joe Anderson Brito, Sean Woodson, William Gomez, Steve Garcia, David Anama, Alex Caceres. There's so many different matchups. And I know people may say, oh, Nathaniel Wood, William Gomez, England versus France, which is a theme I'm kind of going for in this card. But to be honest, I just feel like William Gomez is so boring. He should just fight Sean Woodson because they have a very similar style to each other. I'd rather see that fight, and then we could do this fight, and then we do Joe Anderson Brito versus Steve Garcia. Obviously, these are on different cards, but still, we could do that. Then we could do David Anama versus Alex Caceres. Youssef Zalal, I think, deserves a ranked opponent the most. I say just do Youssef Zalal versus maybe Calvin Kattar. I could see that fight happening. I was thinking about doing Calvin Kattar versus the last fight versus Lerone Murphy, but I decided Josh Emmett. Murphy called him out. It just makes more sense. But yeah, this is the fourth fight. Pretty good card so far. Somewhat realistic, you know. It's going to get more realistic, though, because here we have Christian, Leroy, Duncan versus Dustin, Stoltzfus. Now, this is interesting, and I feel like this is probably going to happen. So, Christian, Leroy, Duncan, obviously from England. He lost his last fight in England pretty badly against Gregory Rodriguez. RoboCop wasn't really competitive at all, to be honest. And it kind of was like his fight against Armen Petrosyan, where, you know, he lost, but he lost so clearly. He didn't get it wasn't like a beatdown, but he clearly was the worst fighter. And those are two guys who are pretty good. I get Armen just lost, but still, he was arguably winning that fight until he wasn't. And those are two guys who are right outside the rankings. You know, they would need probably 2 more wins to get a ranked fight. Maybe not Armen because he just lost, but still. Christian, Leroy, Duncan, he showed that he wasn't on their level. Dustin Stoltzfus, I thought he was almost can worthy. He's not a can, but he's right around there. But he's coming off of one of the best wins of his career. A nasty KO win against Marc-Andre in his home country. This fight makes sense. It's winnable. Dustin Stoltzfus is chinny. We could see a highlight reel KO maybe. I think that this is a very realistic fight, and I'd like to see it. I'd be interested in it. But moving on, we have Guram versus Jai Herbert. So again, these are two guys where they're outside of the rankings, but they're definitely outside the rankings. They're not at the level of they need 1 to 2 more wins and they're going to fight, Paddy, Pimblet, Moicano, or someone like that, Jalen Turner. They're more so 2, 3, maybe even 4 wins away from that. But they're not cans. They're good fighters. And I just see England, you have to have Jai Herbert on this card. He is a very good fighter. He's coming off of a really nice win. And Guram is also coming off of a pretty nice win, a comeback win against another guy who may be on this card. And it's England versus Georgia. They usually have the Georgian guys fight on the England card. So I feel like this makes sense. They're around similar levels. It could be fun. But yeah, I have this fight on the card. Moving on, we have Jack Shore. I know he just lost, but it wasn't really, he ate a flying knee. He did get dropped pretty badly. But, it wasn't the most damage. He could return in, 6, 5 months, whatever. That should be enough time. And he's going against the French Morgan Charriere, a very good fighter. One of my favorite fighters. I think he arguably beat Chepe, to be honest. And again, we're doing, Jack Shore isn't from England, but still, we have a France guy versus, they probably won't root for Charriere. And they like to have the French guys on the England pay-per-views, the fight nights. They don't have to travel that far, either of these guys. And again, they're right around the same level. Featherweight is really good, and they're not at the level of a Chepe or a Brito or a Gomez or a Nathaniel Wood. They probably need an extra win to get a ranking outside of those guys, especially Jack Shore just lost. Morgan is coming off of a really nice win against a guy who also may be on this card. But yeah, they're similar levels. It should be fun. Both of these guys are really well-rounded. And yeah, I think that this would be opening up the main card. I don't know how many I have so far. This would either be the prelim headliner or opening up the main card if it's a 6-fight main card. But yeah, moving on. So we have to have Molly McCann on this card, right? And unfortunately, we realized in her last fight, she showed she's very tough, a very tough fighter. She's 34, and she's not that good, I forgot, it was Brazil or something she lost to. Clearly lost, kind of got dominated against a fighter who's not really that good. So, you have to get her a win somehow. And I feel like this is the most likely, fighter that she could fight. Shauna Bannon, I don't even know how to say her name. I remember watching her fight. I think that she's Irish. Again, you could get that, England versus Ireland. But yeah, this is a winnable fight for her. And if she loses this, then she probably is going to get cut, to be honest. Shauna, Shannon, whatever. She's not very good. I saw her fight. Molly McCann isn't good either. But they're around the same level. England versus Ireland. Just have this fight. If you're going to have Molly McCann fight, just make this fight. But yeah, moving on. We have Sam Patterson. He's coming off of a pretty good win. Very fast win in the last England pay-per-view in July. I would like to see him turn around a little bit quicker. I mean, you took no damage. You should turn around faster than 7-8 months, But he's probably not going to fight until March. Give him the Great White Shark. Give him Alex Morono. That's like a test of a guy. Alex Morono coming off of a loss. 2 back-to-back losses. He's old. He's not that good. He's not dangerous anywhere, really, to be honest. He's not a can, though. He's like a capable fighter. And Sam Patterson, he still has ways to go. Give him Morono. Give him that test. If he could pass this test, it's like, okay, he's good. If you lose to Morono, you're not like a can, but you're just not a good fighter. You're never going to be ranked. So give him that test. But yeah, moving on. We have the guy who lost to Guram, took it on short notice. English guy, Jordan Vucenic. I don't know how to say his name. I know that he is very good because I was watching his fights and I wanted to pick him against Guram. I really did. He's a very good grappler. But it's just Guram is a good fighter. Plus, he took it on short notice. And honestly, that was his downfall. Because he was winning that fight until he kind of gassed out because he took it on short notice. But he's a very good fighter. And he lost his UFC debut. We got to get him a win. And he's fighting, I can't say this guy's name either. I think it's like Borshchev or something like that. The Russian guy who got like 30-20'd by Chase Hooper, got finished, but he got destroyed in that fight. And Chase Hooper is a good grappler. And Borshchev, he's not a bad grappler, which is the crazy thing. But I feel like this is a very winnable fight for Jordan. I think he probably wins, and he is a really good fighter. He's, good for the market, ton of tattoos, and I feel like he just got unlucky in his UFC debut. If he would have taken it not on short notice, I really think he could have won. And beating Guram or almost beating him on your UFC debut, that is not an easy task. This is a very winnable fight. And I think that they should make this a good prelim fight. Moving on, we have Oban Elliott, who's fighting this upcoming Saturday. I don't know if he's going to win or not, so maybe it's risky putting him on this card. I think that he should fight Kevin Jousset. Again, I know Oban Elliott isn't from England, but you want to have the French guys on this card too. This makes sense. I think if Oban wins, it makes more sense. If he loses, I think it still makes sense, honestly, win or lose. I feel like unless Oban takes a ton of damage, gets knocked out, this is the fight to make. Even still, Kevin Jousset isn't known for his power, really causing that much damage, kind of that French kickboxing style, I forget what it's called, but the William Gomez, the Nasruddin Amavov, that type of style. And I think that they should make this fight. Both guys are pretty well-rounded. But yeah, this would be a very good prelim fight. Moving on, Nathan Fletcher. He won on The Ultimate Fighter. They gave him an extra shot. It was a weird kind of thing. I think he broke his leg and he lost his fight, and he fought through it, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you another chance, because the guy that he fought to get into the UFC, I think had some sort of injury too. So they're like, okay, it's only fair. We'll get 3 guys into the UFC this time. And Nathan Fletcher dominated that fight. He looked very good, earned his contract. I think he's in the UFC at least. That would be really embarrassing if he's not in the UFC. But still, he should fight Gabriel Miranda. Now, Miranda, Brazilian, just lost to Morgan Charriere. Again, he's fought in France a lot. I get England is different, but still, he's fought there, I think, 2-3 times maybe. And this would be interesting because Miranda, he's not a can. He actually is pretty good on the ground, and that's what Fletcher is the best at. So I want to see, can Fletcher take it to the ground? And if so, how successful is he? Can he avoid the submissions? And can he himself submit Miranda? This would probably be, one of the first fights on the card. And I think it would get people, maybe in their seats. People like Fletcher, very likable guy. But yeah, moving on. I think that this is the last fight opening up the card. We have Melissa Mullins, who just won, versus Nora Lerone. I think that, honestly, I don't know if Mullins is from England, but still, Nora is from France. Mullins is somewhere around there, from the similar region. And, we're going to keep that theme up, the France versus England, the France versus whatever. Mullins coming off of a really impressive performance. There's not a lot of girls at 135. Nora just lost. This is similar level of competition. I think that this fight is probably going to happen on this card. And, they fought around the same time. They're on the same schedule. Make this fight. Mullins, I would imagine, is probably going to win pretty easily. But yeah, that's the card I built. About, 12, 13 fights. Somewhat realistic. I get it's a fight night. And honestly, if there was a title on the line, this could be a stacked pay-per-view. Or at least a really good pay-per-view for England. But yeah, regardless, let me know what you think. Let me know what matchups you want to see on this card. And who you think the main event is going to be. Because it could be interesting if it's Paddy Pimblet versus Moicano. We don't know if they want to make that 5 rounds to favor Moicano or not. Or if they should do the former champ Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, or Leon Edwards versus JDM, Buckley, Ian Gary. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that is it for me.